Hi, this is your latest Hurricane Tracker app video update recorded August 22nd, 2013 at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Well, thanks for joining us as we take a look at the Atlantic Basin this morning. First of all, we're not expecting any development over the next 5 days. Development chances are below 30% in the low category. The computer models are not showing any development during the next 5 days, and even after that, the models really aren't showing too much. However, we are expecting an upward pulse of the Madden-Julian oscillation, as referred to frequently as the MJO, which we're going to take a deeper look into on this video update. We expect this to begin to enhance upward motion, first across the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea, and then progress its way eastward across the Atlantic during the next 2 weeks. The average date for the first hurricane in the Atlantic Basin is normally August 10th, and we are now 12 days past that, and we will likely go the rest of the month without a hurricane in the Atlantic Basin. So all in all, that is good news for folks who live along the coast. Taking a look at the current activity across the Atlantic Basin, we see it's very active in terms of thunderstorm activity here in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea. We do have a very weak tropical wave here in the western Caribbean Sea, but we're not expecting any development out of this as conditions are not very favorable. And this morning we're seeing a nice blow up of convection and thunderstorms here across the northeast Gulf, and this should move towards the west-northwest over the next few days, enhancing some rainfall along the Louisiana and possibly the Texas coastlines. Out here across the tropical Atlantic, we just see just some moderate thunder shower activity across the intertropical convergence zone, and there's nothing out here that shows any signs of developing within the next several days. Switching over to the eastern Atlantic, there is a decent tropical wave that is beginning to emerge here off the west coast of Africa. A couple of days ago, the GFS long-range computer model was developing this system into a tropical depression or a tropical storm, and was showing a forecast track off to the west-northwest. But over the last several model runs, that model has dropped development and is no longer showing this developing into a tropical cyclone. Nonetheless, this will be the only system really to watch throughout the rest of the week and into the weekend. So we'll keep a close eye on it as it begins to move westward across the Atlantic. But again, we're not very optimistic about development out here at this point. There's still a lot of dry air across the central Atlantic Basin, as notated here in the teal colors. Over time, during the next 2 weeks, we do expect the dry air to be replaced by more moist air as the Madden-Julian oscillation begins to work its way eastward. But right now, conditions in the central Atlantic are just not very favorable for development. During the past several weeks, we've seen a lot of dust that's been picked up here out of the Saharan Desert and has been transported here into the central and eastern regions of the Atlantic. You can see the tropical wave here that's coming off of the coast of Africa, and you can also see how the Saharan air layer, the dust, is beginning to push westward out in front of this tropical wave. So we do expect that the Saharan air dust layer will continue to move westward and weaken with time. And during the next couple weeks, this should be less of a factor in terms of inhibiting development. I want to take a look at the latest long-range computer model run from the GFS this morning. The areas in blue and the darker blue are areas of lower pressure, and that's where you typically will look for tropical cyclone development. Then the pinkish red areas are areas of high pressure, and the L's are areas of more organized low pressure. But you can really see here we're already out to August 26th, 27th. Really, there's no organized areas of low pressure or tropical depressions or tropical storms. You could see one here in the eastern Pacific, but just for this time of year, the GFS model is still being very quiet as far as development here in the long range. Several days ago, if you have been following us, you may have noticed it was showing several systems in the long term, and that's still very possible as we get into early September, but we do believe the rest of August is going to continue to be very quiet if these long-range models were to verify. We want to end our video today talking about the MJO, referred to here as the Madden-Julian oscillation. You may hear a lot about this when you're researching the tropics or you're following other sources, but nobody really explains what that means, and I'd like to just take a couple minutes here at the end of this video and explain to you guys exactly what this is in the most simple terms that we can. The MJO is characterized by an eastward progression of a large region of both enhanced and suppressed tropical rainfall. And of course, one of the main ingredients you need for tropical cyclone development is heavy, deep thunderstorm activity, which helps a system to organize. And we usually will see ascending and descending motions across the Atlantic and the Eastern Pacific basins, and even out further into the Western Pacific. And these ascending and descending motions will either enhance or suppress tropical cyclone formation. And usually when one basin is quiet, the other one is active. So a good example right now is we have developing systems over the next week that will be occurring here over the Eastern Pacific, but on the other side of the coin, the Atlantic basin has been very quiet. Over time, during the next 1 to 2 weeks, especially into the early parts of September, we do expect this upward pulse of enhanced activity to move eastward into the Atlantic basin. And this is a map right now showing current activity. Let me turn on my marker here. The areas within the green lines is generally an area right now of upward motion in the atmosphere, which helps lifts and supports thunderstorm growth. And right now here over the Atlantic basin, see here's Florida, the Gulf Coast of the United States. Here's South America here. You can see we have an area of descending air, suppressed activity, which is what is really limiting the tropical cyclone development and making this month below average in terms of hurricanes. Now these are two different models I like to show you. Each rectangle here, as you go downward, goes deeper into time. So for example, this is where we are right now here around August 22nd. You can see the green areas are the upward pulses of the Madden-Julian oscillation. So as we get into August 25th, August 30th, September 4th, about 2 to 3 weeks from now, you can see the green area of coverage beginning to expand eastward into the Caribbean and the sea and into the Western Atlantic. And you can see right now, let me clear the screen here, we have these orange areas, which are areas of suppressed thunderstorm activity. And so right now the activity is over the Central and Eastern Pacific, and with time we do expect this to progress eastward as we get into the first 1 to 2 weeks of September, and then eventually towards the middle to later end of September we'll see the MJO signature decrease. Over here on the right is a different model showing the same similar pattern. Right now we have a lot of sinking air here over the Atlantic, while all the rising air is over the Eastern Pacific. And again, you see these green colors start to progress eastward as we get deeper with time. Really for the first half of September through about the 20th of September, we should see a greatly enhanced tropical activity across the Gulf, Caribbean, and the Atlantic, Central and Eastern Atlantic basins. So just to summarize today's video, we expect it to continue to be very quiet for the next 7 to 10 days. Then after that time period, if the computer models are correct in forecasting this upward pulse of the Madden-Julian oscillation, we should start to see a more normal and even a hyperactive Atlantic season is very possible. So we'll be here with all the latest updates as we approach this time period here in the tropics. Thanks so much for watching. If you'd like to grab the Hurricane Tracker app, it's available at www.hurtracker.com. Thanks for watching and have a great day.